for the release of all files related to the late serial sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And under enormous pressure, the Justice Department has just released more than 11,000 files Tuesday, totaling nearly 30,000 pages of documents. This includes internal FBI emails from 2019 that mention 10 possible co-conspirators of Epstein, including one who's described as a, quote, wealthy businessman in Ohio, unquote. The emails also note that, quote, 3 have been located in Florida and served grand jury subpoenas. 1 in Boston, 1 in New York City, 1 in Connecticut were located and served, unquote. Ghislaine Maxwell is the only Epstein accomplice to be charged criminally. She's currently serving a 20-year sentence on federal sex trafficking charges. This comes after the DOJ Monday briefly published thousands of additional documents related to Epstein. The second tranche of documents were available online for several hours, but then disappeared from the Justice Department's website without explanation. The documents contain wide-ranging references to Donald Trump. One email written by an assistant U.S. attorney during Trump's first term in early 2020 found Trump was a passenger aboard Epstein's private jet on at least 8 flights between 1993 and 1996. On at least 4 of those flights, Epstein's co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell was also present. Trump has not been directly accused of criminal conduct and claims to have cut ties with Epstein decades ago. In a joint statement, multiple survivors slammed the government's recent document dump for failing to redact numerous victim identities while also making, quote, abnormal and extreme redactions with no explanation, like page upon page completely blacked out. This is Epstein survivor Charlene Rochard speaking on NBC.
I'm very upset with the justice system because there's full pages that are totally blacked out. And I don't know about you, but my name is not a full page. We only ask that our names be redacted. That's all we asked for. So pages and pages and pages of black on black on black is just unacceptable.
On Monday, 18 survivors of Epstein wrote a joint letter condemning the Justice Department's release of just a fraction of the files demanded by law and called on Congress to hold hearings to ensure the Trump administration is fully complying with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. This is Epstein survivor Haley Robson, who voted for Trump in the 2024 presidential election, responding to the new files. She was speaking on CNN.
At the end of the day, I am no longer supporting this administration. I redact any support I've ever given to him, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. I am so disgusted with this administration. I think that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel both need to resign, and I would love to see number 47 get impeached over this.
This comes as Democratic Congressmember Robert Garcia, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, is asking the DOJ's Inspector General to investigate why the FBI failed to act on a 1996 complaint by survivor Maria Farmer against Jeffrey Epstein that he and his associates were producing child sexual abuse material. Garcia wrote, quote, for survivors like Maria Farmer, her family, and all the people Jeffrey Epstein abused in the decades that followed this unanswered complaint, this was not merely a missed investigative opportunity. It was a profound betrayal by their own government, unquote. Meanwhile, Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna and Republican Congressmember Thomas Massie, who sponsored the Epstein Files Transparency Act, say Attorney General Pam Bondi should be held in contempt, could be fined for every day she fails to release the full Epstein files. For more on all of this, we're joined in our New York studio by Vicky Ward, longtime investigative journalist, host and co-producer of the podcast series Chasing Ghislaine, the untold story of the woman in Epstein's shadow, which also became a TV series by the same name. Vicky, welcome back to Democracy Now! First of all, if you can respond to what has happened so far, December 19th was the deadline. That was Friday. Now the Justice Department days later, after releasing thousands of documents, then erasing them from the website, now calling for for attorneys in the United States to come to the Justice Department and help them redact what has been redacted, what has not been redacted. Can you respond to all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think right from the get-go, right from when months ago, Pam Bondi said in an interview, oh, I've got the Epstein files sitting on my desk. I mean, that was the first indication, I think, of the contemptuous, cavalier attitude that has gone on inside this Justice Department.
Right, she said she was going to release the
so-called files. They were there on her desk. I don't think that these thousands and thousands of pages were sitting on her desk. I mean, so, you know, and it's heartbreaking, frankly, to see these files being dribbled out. It's so against the spirit in which the victims went to Capitol Hill, asked for transparency, which bipartisan Congress agreed with them that they are owed this transparency so that crimes like this may never happen again. And now to have this mishmash, which even I, who am not a victim of sexual abuse from Jeffrey Epstein, but I sat through Ghislaine Maxwell's trial and I found it very, very upsetting. I think most of us journalists, you know, we're hard bitten, you know, we've seen some things. It was really difficult to hear the stories of abuse in that courtroom and really difficult to learn the scale of it. And these pages have that story writ large again and again and again. And given the chaos of this rollout, there's no easy way for these survivors to quickly search what they're looking for. I want to see...
That was part of the law, by the way, that
right.
There had to be a working search function on these documents.
And there isn't. And they have to wade through page after page after page of very, very difficult stuff. I think just on a moral basis, it's disgusting.
It's really important to be talking to you today because years ago, you wrote this piece in Vanity Fair. You're the person who spoke to Maria Farmer. Now, that conversation did not appear in Vanity Fair, and if you can remind our viewers and listeners what happened, because this has to do with the collusion of the press with Jeffrey Epstein, but you know her story very well.
Yes.
This woman who for decades has tried to stop the abuse by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yes, well, I didn't speak to Maria Farmer just once. You know, in the fall of 2002, when I was assigned to write this profile of Jeffrey Epstein, I met with Maria. I spoke to her many, many times. And she said exactly what has now appeared in the FBI's files. She said that in 1996, she had had a horrific night while up in a guest house of Jeffrey Epstein's home on Les Wexner's estate in Ohio. She'd been up there painting. She was an artist. Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell had come to visit her. There had followed some horrible sexual abuse, after which she had run out of the house, taken her dog, run.
The sexual abuse perpetrated by both Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein.
But in all of this, she had left behind a lockbox of nude photographs of her sisters. Not just Annie, there was another sister. And, you know, she was a figurative artist. She, you know, that's the kind of the work that she did. And she was terrified that Epstein was going to do, excuse me, you know, something terrible with these. And she got phone calls from both Epstein and Maxwell threatening her. So she phoned, in fact, she told me she phoned the police in New York first. And they said, this is not for us. This is, you know, going across state lines. You have to phone the FBI. She did phone the FBI. Now, the FBI back in the day, I phoned the FBI.
They threatened to burn her.
but she phoned the FBI about the lockbox and was worried, desperately worried, you know, what could they do with nude photographs of her sisters who were babies, teenagers.
They were her younger sisters.
And you know, when I was reporting this piece, you know, the FBI tend not to answer journalists like me, so I wasn't able to get that record back then. I also phoned the police, and they didn't produce their records, which I wish they had, because they had a record too. But you know, as I think you know, and a lot of journalists know, how this tragic story ends, which was that when, towards the closing of the piece, I had to go to Jeffrey Epstein and to Ghislaine Maxwell with the allegations of both Maria Farmer as to what had happened, and her younger sister, Annie, who had said very clearly on the record that she had been taken to New Mexico for a weekend and
She was a state there.
Yes, and you know, at the age of 16, and had to have a topless massage from Ghislaine Maxwell, and then Jeffrey Epstein one morning jumped into bed for quote unquote a cuddle with her. Epstein went berserk when I put those allegations, as did Ghislaine Maxwell. Absolutely berserk. He, you know, suddenly sent over a whole bunch of paperwork that he claimed were letters from their mother, letters from them that showed that no, you know, this could not be true. And you know, the next thing I knew was that as we were closing the piece, a fact checker sent me a note saying, "You're not going to believe who's now in the office at Vanity Fair." It was Jeffrey Epstein, who, you know, who knows what happened.
Meeting with
Graydon Carter, the editor of the magazine. I do not know what was said in that meeting. I will say, Amy, that
you were about to give birth to twins.
I was at home on bed rest. I thought we were done with this piece. I did find in these files that when the first batch that was released, that there was a section in a binder containing photographs that was called Vanity Fair. I did notice that the photographs in that binder, in that section, were the ones that were used accompanying my piece in the magazine, which is very unusual because Vanity Fair normally prides itself on its photography as much as it does on its words. So one has to assume they provided the photographs. One has to ask, what was the quid pro quo? My piece finally ran. The Farmer sisters and their allegations were not in it. And the reason that is so terrible and devastating is that we had exposed them, I had exposed them to Ghislaine Maxwell and to Graydon Carter. And the story doesn't end there. The FBI then phoned me about, I want to say a year later, 2004, about the Farmer sisters. And I did tell them what had happened. So I would like to see my my interview notes somewhere in these
And you haven't
files.
seen them yet?
No, I have not.
But that certainly is not classified information. That is proof, once again, of all of the information that has not been released.
100%. 100%. The other thing I think you see, it's not just the rollout itself that shambles. The content in it kind of paints a picture of a shambolic FBI. You know, this is an FBI that seems to take its lead quite often from the press. I will say it's interesting, you know, I learned that something I'd reported is kind of laid out on the page clearly, which is that were it not for David Boies, the lawyer who represented Virginia Giuffre in her civil litigation against Ghislaine Maxwell, Virginia sued for defamation.
Who brought down
Yes.
Andrew, the prince,
Yes.
no longer.
Right, and Virginia, as we know, tragically died of suicide earlier this year. But you can see in these files, in that litigation, which was in 2016, you can see notes of conversations. David Boies went to the feds. He went to the Southern District, said, you need to look at what is in this discovery, you need to look at these depositions, because this shows the bigger crime. You see the feds tracking this, but you don't see them doing anything until, again, you see them pass around links to the Miami Herald, links to Julie Brown's story in end of 2018. And it's almost like they are having to follow, you know, almost, you know, like Inspector Clouseau, these breadcrumbs that are left for them by everybody else. And I'm sure the survivors find this really disheartening in a way to watch.
Why do you think President Trump has approached this the way he has? And what about the information and all that has come out around him, not necessarily criminal, but the removal of his name from so many different documents. And then you see his name once in a document that was redacted, and so you know that it's actually him. He's the one who campaigned on the release of the Jeffrey Epstein documents. Now he had to sign this release into law, but the way they are dragging their feet, talk as we wrap up about what you expect to see, the incredible power of the survivors banding together.
Well, you know, this is speculation, but my gut, and I do know President Trump, it tells me that he doesn't like a story in which there's any sort of grey or nuance that he isn't somehow the best, the absolute best. And you know, and this is a story which again and again and again brings up his past, and a past that presented a very different portrait of Donald Trump than the one he would like to portray now. I will say that, you know, having sat in the Maxwell trial, we did see his name come up on the screen, on the flight logs, in that key period when Maxwell and Epstein were grooming and recruiting one of their major victims who was attending Interlochen, a school for artistic gifted children. You did see Flight's name again and Trump's name again and again and again on the manifest, and it was a head scratcher because it was really impossible at that time to put the pieces of this jigsaw puzzle together.
Because he denied being on any flights and he denied being at the island.
Well, and I never saw any records of him being on the island. I don't know if he denied being on any flights, but I think that, you know, you can see if you're Trump, this is all too close for comfort.
Gaza's population is on the brink of famine. Every
Welcome back. As Donald Trump prepares to outline his immigration plan tonight, his policy on work-related visas is coming under intense scrutiny. A March statement from the campaign on H-1B visas program reads, in part, it says, "I will end forever the use of the H-1B as a cheap labor program and institute an absolute requirement to hire American workers first for every visa and immigration program, no exceptions." Well, that policy stands in stark contrast today with a new report from Mother Jones in which 3 former models claim they worked illegally on tourist visas for Trump Model Management, an agency that is still up and running. Industry Jones in which 3 former models claim they worked illegally on tourist visas for Trump Model Management, an agency that is still up and running. Industry experts which first for every visa and immigration program, no exceptions. Well, that policy stands in stark contrast today with a new report from Mother Jones in which 3 former models claim they worked illegally on tourist visas for Trump Model Management, an agency that is still up and running. Industry experts tell Mother Jones that this kind of violation was once common in the fashion industry, but model Rachel Blay tells Mother Jones, quote, "Honestly, they are the most crooked agency I've ever worked for, and I've worked for quite a few." Mother Jones reports that according to a financial disclosure filed by the campaign, Donald, honestly, they are the most crooked agency I've ever worked for, and I've worked for quite a few. Common in the fashion industry, but model Rachel Blay tells Mother Jones, quote, "Honestly, they are the most crooked agency I've ever worked for, and I've worked for quite a few." Mother Jones reports that according to a financial disclosure filed by the campaign, Donald Trump earned nearly $2 million from Trump Model Management and still holds an 85% stake in the company. Trump's campaign spokesperson, Hope Hicks, declined to answer questions from Mother Jones, saying, quote, "That has nothing to do with me or the campaign." But this morning, vice presidential candidate Mike Pence did respond.
I think the Trump organization can speak for itself on those issues. I'm very confident that they complied and conformed to the laws of the country. That, you know, as I said, these sidebar issues that come up, his business enterprise can address those, and I'm confident they'll address them forthrightly.
Joining me now, James West, senior digital editor for Mother Jones and the author of this investigative report. James, thanks for your time. It's interesting that Hope Hicks as well as Governor Pence both see this as some type of sidebar, that it has nothing to do with the campaign, and yet the candidate has a very strong statement about H-1B visas and bringing in workers over picking Americans who work here.
Look, what we know about this company is that this is anything but a sidebar issue for Donald Trump. Since he launched this company in 1999, he surrounded himself constantly with Trump models. Rachel Blay, who was in my piece, even appeared on a 2004 episode of The Apprentice, she says, without proper work authorization. So in the piece, we have 4 Trump models. Their cases are quite clear. They were here without work authorization for his company. His company is like the jewel in his crown of his kind of business empire. There's no doubt that this is far from a sidebar issue for Trump himself.
Now, according to the models, the agency instructed them or encouraged them to deceive customs officials about why they were visiting the United States, and even told them to lie on customs forms about where they intended to live. And there are also these lingering questions yet to be answered regarding Melania Trump and her life as a model and her first entry into the United States. So again, these are campaign issues.
Yeah, this is a business candidate that runs on his business record. We need to compare what his campaign says about hardline immigration reform, as he calls it. He says immigrants are taking our money, taking our jobs. He wants to build a wall. We're going to see him with the Mexican president soon enough today. So these are real life issues in the campaign for the presidential nominee for the GOP. Let's compare it to his record. At Trump Model Management, they say, and industry experts say, this is commonplace, that young, sometimes teenage women came to this country to work without proper work authorization on tourist visas for this company. Why did it happen? How did it happen? Let's get to the bottom of it.
And you make the point that employers caught hiring non-citizens without proper visas can be fined $16,000 per employee. In some cases, face up to 6 months behind bars. Rachel Blay, in your piece, called what she experienced, and this is very hard to read, modern day slavery. She compared it also to being in like a sweatshop.
Yes, so these young women, they come to New York sometimes for the first time. They're put through, obviously, a rigorous customs immigration interview. Like, anyway, I'm a foreigner myself. I've done it many times. You come through, they were told to ship their modeling portfolios, for example, ahead of time so customs officials wouldn't find them, to dress down, to write different addresses on their forms. Once they got here, they were put in models apartments, they're known in the business, these cramped living quarters. Rachel herself was paying up to $1,600 a month for a bunk, sharing in a room with 5 other people in a basement apartment in New York's East Village. So she's required, after doing some modeling gigs, to pay that money back to the agency at the end of it. Some models simply don't make that money back. Sky-high rent, cramped living conditions, and one described to me like a sitting duck. They're here working without the proper authorization. Who knows when they're going to get found out?
Well, it's a fascinating investigative report. James, thank you so much for your time. You can go on to Mother Jones to read more. Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC.
in an exhaustive round of personal interviews designed to help our judges discover what makes each one special.
Your 5'9" reading? Serious, huh? We may measure again tonight before the game. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Amy.
The concentration was intense inside the judging room.
What if they don't like you as you are?
And out.
I'm just so excited.
Each girl was considered not only for her beauty and poise, but also for her personality and that indefinable something extra that makes a top model.
Okay, you want to pull your hair back 1 second? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ingrid. Good luck for tonight.
Thank you. This is day 1 of my husband doing Tai Chi workouts. This is day 2.
Okay, you start and I'm ready.
In the wake of questions and allegations about Donald Trump's behavior towards women, ET discovered this footage in our archive, which we provided to CBS News.
Soon. Thursday night. You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it? Okay. I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it? Okay. In 10 years. Can you believe it?
CBS News.
Soon. Thursday night. You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
It wouldn't be Christmas if not for your racist, disgusting, vile relative making gross sexual remarks to people unwanted. At least that's Christmas at the White House, because Donald Trump is, for some reason, Grandpa, they're letting Grandpa talk to children amid everything going on with Epstein. And I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. He literally comments on the physicality of one of them. And he also, and this one you're going to see, he basically gives the game away on Santa to a child. So let's walk through it because, well, as I say, if I had to see it, so do you. Here's Donald Trump reminding a girl that mommy's going to take care of Santa.
Give you a lot of beautiful presents, like really beautiful presents. What do you want more than anything else? What present would you like?
Hello, Emily. Hello. Merry Christmas.
Wow, a dollhouse. I think we can work that out. I have a feeling, Mommy, that we can work that out, right?
Family.
I think Santa's going to bring you the most beautiful dollhouse you've ever seen, okay? Let me know how good the dollhouse is, but we owe a lot to Santa, so I think Santa will fulfill your wish, okay?
I look forward to it too. So,
Thank you, honey. Take care of yourself. Merry Christmas.
Okay, and then here's Donald Trump asking how old someone is after calling her beautiful and cute.
Good. I'm fine. You sound so beautiful and cute. How old are you?
I'm 8.
Wow, so smart. You sound...
Oh. Ugh. That's just, I mean, he really just can't help himself. That's just, I mean...
How old are you? I think Santa will fulfill your wish, okay?
I look forward to it too. So,
Thank you, honey. Take care of yourself. Merry Christmas.
Okay, and then here's Donald Trump asking how old someone is after calling her beautiful and cute.
Good. I'm fine. You sound so beautiful and cute. How old are you?
I'm 8.
Wow, so smart. You sound...
Oh. Ugh.
Wow. How old are you? I'm fine. You sound so...
Her beautiful and cute.
Good. I'm fine. You sound so beautiful and cute. How old are you?
I'm 8.
Wow, so smart. You sound...
Oh. Ugh. That's just, I mean, he really just can't help himself, can he? He just cannot help himself. It's actually shocking.
I'm fine. You sound so beautiful and cute. How old are you?
I'm 8.
Wow.
Ugh. All right, and then here's Donald Trump asking if a child knows what this word means.
I don't know. So, will Santa ever get mad if we don't leave him out any cookies?
This was getting good. Well, go ahead, say it again, honey. Go ahead. Will Santa ever get mad?
Will Santa ever get mad if we don't leave him out any cookies?
I think he won't get mad, but I think he'll be very disappointed. You know, he tends to be a little bit on the cherubic side. You know what cherubic means? A little on the heavy side. I think Santa would like some cookies. You'd like to leave some cookies for Santa, right?
Folks are dying from straining on the toilet, and I'm sounding the alarm. Watch this. Hello, I'm a paramedic, and what I'm gonna...
It's so interesting. I mean, it's really interesting trying to watch him be like someone who has any type of human emotion, which we know Donald Trump really only thinks about himself. And most sociopaths, I mean, they do develop an ability to at least pretend like they care, but it really, really is painful to watch. Donald Trump also told a child that they should be happy if they get coal.
You are now connected with the President of the United States.
Hi, how are you?
Newly released Justice Department files related to Jeffrey Epstein, this is tough stuff, include an allegation involving President Donald Trump that we can't ignore. Now, I want to be clear about what this is and what this is not. And I don't know that everybody is necessarily doing a good job about explaining what these documents do and don't mean. The Department of Justice has released thousands of additional Epstein-related documents. Many of these are heavily redacted. Now, in the middle of this, there's an FBI case file from October of 2020, which references an allegation of rape involving Donald Trump. The document does not identify the accuser. It does not conclude wrongdoing. It is not an adjudication of guilt, but the language is extraordinarily explicit and disturbing. Now, I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you about this document and not another one that many of you have written to me about in a moment. According to this document, an unnamed individual alleges that Donald Trump raped her and that this occurred alongside Jeffrey Epstein. The phrase "he raped me" is in the file referring to Donald Trump, and the statement continues with a description of being taken into a fancy hotel or building. Some of the text here is, as blank talked about his time meeting Donald Trump, blank immediately, blank demeanor went to stone cold, as blank stated.
In an exhaustive round of personal interviews designed to help our judges discover what makes each one special.
Thursday night. You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Newly released Justice Department files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Side Jeffrey Epstein. The phrase "he raped me" is in the file referring to Donald Trump, and the statement continues with a description of being taken into a fancy hotel or building. Some of the text here is, as blank talked about his time meeting Donald Trump, blank immediately, blank demeanor went to stone cold, as blank stated, "he raped me." Blank said, "What?" As blank replied, Donald J. Trump had raped her along with Jeffrey Epstein. Blank noted some girl with a funny name, took me into a fancy hotel or building. That's how it happened. There is more to the document. We're publishing a link to it. You can check it out. Now, this is not a court ruling. This is not an adjudicated finding or a court verdict. This is an allegation recorded in an FBI file, now made public by the DOJ. The same file references a separate account from a limo driver who described a very concerning phone call involving Trump in 1995. According to that document, Donald Trump repeatedly mentioned Jeffrey during the call and made references to abusing some girl. The driver's name and other details have been redacted. Now, in addition to the rape allegation, these new documents raise concerns and questions about Trump's relationship with Epstein.
Jean Carroll was all smiles as she exited the Manhattan courtroom. The jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse and for defamation. So the jury believed her account over Trump's. However, they rejected the accusation that Carroll had been raped. In New York, sexual abuse is defined as subjecting someone to sexual contact without their consent. The jury has awarded Carroll a total of $5 million in damages. Now, over the years, more than a dozen women have accused.
Well, tonight, with the world now wondering about the 10 co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein referred to in some of the Epstein files released today, it is worth considering. What would an innocent person do? What would someone who is mentioned in the Epstein files do if he or she believed that he or she is totally innocent of any wrongdoing with Jeffrey Epstein? Former President Bill Clinton's office put out a statement saying, quote, "We call on President Trump to direct Attorney General Bondi to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Bill Clinton." And there it is. That is the model for how you handle this situation.
Welcome back to The Takeout. This very busy news day in the last 5 minutes got even busier. I'll explain more about that in a second. But what kept us originally busy today was the production of a large number, though not all, of the Epstein files. We have a team of producers and reporters looking through those documents right now. One of them, CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen, who joins me now here. Jake.
Prince Andrew lying across, it looks like the laps of women. Ghislaine Maxwell is also in the photo. There is a notable photo that also appeared of former CBS Evening News anchor Walter Cronkite with Jeffrey Epstein and another man. It looks like it's from about 2007, so it is also worth noting that he was about 90 years old at that time. But we are continuing to go through all of this and pick out the information that we really think the public should learn about and see what's new here, because we're really still figuring that out.
Katrina Kaufman. Katrina, thank you.
At least we have some breaking news to share with you. The Department of Justice says it has uncovered, and I'm quoting here, 1 million more documents potentially related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Caitlin Polance is here. Caitlin, with these documents, do we know if they're above and beyond all of the ones that they already have? And if so, what that's going to mean to the release?
Yeah, this is quite a Christmas news drop, Sarah. The Justice Department now revealing that they are still discovering files from Jeffrey Epstein and all of the different parts of the Justice Department that had files related to him.
Welcome back. As Donald Trump prepares to outline his immigration plan tonight, his policy on work-related visas is coming under intense scrutiny. A March statement from the campaign on H-1B visas program reads, in part, it says, "I will end forever the use of the H-1B as a cheap labor program and institute an absolute requirement to hire American workers first for every visa and immigration program, no exceptions." Well, that policy stands in stark contrast today with a new report from Mother Jones in which 3 former models claim they worked illegally on tourist visas for Trump Model Management, an agency that is still up and running. Industry experts tell Mother Jones that this kind of violation was once common in the fashion industry, but model Rachel Blay tells Mother Jones, quote, "Honestly, they are the most crooked agency I've ever worked for, and I've..."
This is what my house looks like, and I haven't cleaned in 3 months. That's because I have someone come and do it for me twice a month through HomeAglow. Let's talk about how much that actually cost me. So using HomeAglow, the first cost was...
We will be doing intermittent updates on the tranches of Epstein files that continue to be released, and there's always shocking and horrifying things. So there's that. The flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously had been reported. 4 of the 10 are outstanding, with attempts having been made. 1 is a wealthy businessman in Ohio. It's 5. According to the document, Trump repeatedly said the name Jeffrey during the call and made references to abusing some girl. If that's true, not only is it sickening and horrifying, it's so dang stupid. She had, in fact, called the police about what they had talked about. Redacted told Redacted she had done good. Redacted did not hear from Redacted or Redacted until January 10th, 2000. With a lot of these, people can make allegations to law enforcement, or allegations can be prostitutes. So another allegation. You then have Jeffrey Epstein's brother filing with the FBI to claim Jeffrey Epstein was murdered in his jail cell. I have reason to believe he was killed because he was about to name names. I believe President Trump authorized his murder. So again, he's saying he believes. That's his suspicion. Crazy world. I don't know why I have this clip. What is this?
Well, it's true. It's true. You know it's true. I mean, it happens to be true.
Jean Carroll was all smiles as she exited the Manhattan courtroom. The jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse and for defamation. So the jury believed
actually indicated that she loved it. Okay, she loved it until commercial break. In fact, I think she said it was sexy, didn't she? It was very sexy to be raped. Didn't she say that?
So, sir, I just want to confirm, it's your testimony that Jean Carroll said that she loved being sexually assaulted by you?
Well, based on her interview with Anderson Cooper, I believe that's what took place.
The attorney...
Her interview that she didn't... Okay, she loved... She actually...
the allegations. And Trump responded that Carroll enjoyed being raped.
She fainted with great emotion. She actually indicated that she loved it. Okay, she loved it until commercial break. In fact, I think she said it was sexy, didn't she? It was very sexy to be raped. Didn't she say that?